Right, to ask specifically about Mithy, I often say this. I'll take ownership myself. In the past, just because the terminology was so limited in League of Legends, I often did describe him as like a shot caller. And he has even told me in interviews, like, don't say that, like, technically I didn't really call shots in the game or whatever. But it's because I didn't have a better label. Like, now what I do for players like him is I call them like a cerebral player. Because basically what I've heard for real amazing in loads of the teams, I mean, Youngbuck would even tell you this, is like in a lot of the teams Mithy was in, he sort of was the coach, if you know what I mean. Like, supposedly everyone says in practice, he's the guy who would like say in the review or whatever, like, we did this wrong or whatever. Famously in G2 later on, he's the guy who like figured that shit out that the Koreans did with how they like split the map or whatever the fuck, like, which like revolutionized fucking G2's level and stuff. So who was this guy? Because like, look, it's mad because if you ever see him in public on camera, he is super self-effacing. He'll always talk himself down and act like he did nothing. But every top player I know that was a teammate with this guy, mate, raves about him and says his mind for League of Legends was amazing.
It is. I mean, he has a what makes Mithy special is that he, unlike maybe any other player that I've met so far, is so focused on winning, but does so in a way that is actually helpful to the team, right? Like, I mean, we had useless arguments, we had long arguments that could have been solved in 20 minutes, but he was always willing to talk things out as it became necessary. So when we didn't have a solution for a certain issue, he would not relent until he had it, right? So it's like this relentlessness about finding a solution to an issue and then anticipating further issues. What made him as great as he was, or as great he might still be. I don't know, but I don't know. It's like it's the insanity that Forgiven had. I mean, Forgiven always wanted to win, but he did that in his very unique style. The way that Mithy did it was always team-centric, and he did not advocate for changes in a way. He didn't really want anyone benched or whatever it is. He always just cared about wanting to win, trying to like get to the point of it. When he got fed up with people, he became a bit toxic. Might have been a bit passive-aggressive once in a while. Enemies fake out. What can we do? The usual stuff, but he never ever like thought of him as anything but a force for the team to utilize. And I think that was like what is so unique about him. And I don't know, like I respect him a lot. And when I joined Origin, he was obviously the one that I argued with the most. And I was also the most disappointed by what happened in Season 6, because I think like I talked about this battle worn thing, the battle hardened thing that I had in TSM, I had with him too. And I felt like we're like two amigos in a way, and that the two of us were gonna stick together for quite a long time, right? And then
wasn't it something like they didn't really tell you, they just sort of told you last second like we're going. It wasn't like they didn't really even include the rest of the players in the decision, right?
No, they didn't. Like, I mean, I was actually in Santa Cruz at the time, like in California. I was visiting, and suddenly I get a message. And I'm like, Mithy and Sven are gone. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, they're going to G2. I'm like, and I was laughing internally. I was like, to G2 after we lost to them in the finals? Like, what? And I thought of it as like a betrayal, because that off season I could have joined TSM instead of before Svenskeren. I made the choice not to. I could have joined. Well, let's go joined. I could have had this. I mean, no, I could have maybe joined TSM. That was actually my main only thing. I could have joined TSM back. I made the choice not to. And I even advocated for him to get on TSM with me, but he didn't want to leave Sven. And I was like, man, that makes sense. Okay, well, if you guys are staying, I'm going to stay too. I'm just going to do that, right? I'm going to, like, I think we still have something to work out with, like, and the issues that we had in the prior split when it comes to, I would say management in a way. Like, I would say Origin didn't understand the scale which they had to operate in. Like, it was more like they were always at this family stage, and they didn't really understand how to scale that up, right? Other teams, Immortals, CSM, they bought these, or they bought into these whole like Korean boot camps all the time, and they bought into these insane salaries, whatever it's all the time. Origin obviously didn't have that funding; they didn't have the money for it, right? So they're always a step back. But they made promises around the gaming house situation and really wanted to better us because we're in the middle of nowhere. We're like 40 minutes away from live, and they never made that happen. So in the end, I understood why they left, but I felt betrayal in a way that I felt like, I know that I sucked doing this, but I think I had something inside, like at the very time too. Like you guys, we actually had this conversation. I even said like, this is on me right now. I just suck. I just suck, and I did suck at the time. And then towards playoffs, I started not sucking, and we suddenly made it to the finals, right? And then we had this hunger of, well, what's going to happen next? But we're really hungry now. We know how to win the games now. Peck is back in play. We get him back. We're going to win the split, whatever it is, no problem. And I get that message. I'm like, well, damn, like, I have no one to bounce off of anymore. I didn't have that interaction that furthered me because I need someone to argue with me. Like, I needed Reggie. I needed Bjergsen. I needed Mithy. The players that were going to argue with me to the end of days to find a solution that is going to be suitable for the entire team. So we're going to make the right call. Didn't have that anymore. And suddenly I'm a completely different player, right? I'm not the same person anymore. I can play for my own and I'd go back to my CW days. And I did that, try to do that in the summer split, but I knew that was not going to win us games. That was not going to win us a split. That was not going to win us anything. And I knew that, once he joined G2, it was just done deal for me. It was just, yeah, this is fucked. I still tried with Origin, but there was no way we're going to win anything that split. It was just impossible.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.